the kind of stuff. And typo's okay, but if you say, no. Yesterday, the other day, I don't remember. Yesterday or in Madrid, somebody, someone from IBM was showing something, say IBM was lifted or something. And you go to the meetings, no, you know, well, you have to fix this.
Right. So, actually, do you want to let me just close the door?
So, but no, it's not that easy. For me, every year I had to go through and look for the. So once you propose the slides, I get a message, and then I approve the slides, and they are. I'm going to.
Right.
So I'm going to update
The slides, fine. Okay. So welcome all to, this is the green working group. Let me just get control of my mouse. Yes, we've got an hour's session today, and then we've got some more time on Friday. So first of all, the note well. So I'll say this is something you all know and love. Actually, they've changed the format of this. I don't think they've changed the meaning of what's behind it, but I'll leave it up here so you can have a look at it. It's sort of a reminder about the IETF process and policies, including conduct, privacy, and intellectual property rights. You agree to follow these when you participate in the IETF. Please read it carefully. You're encouraged to read the source documents to which the note well refers. If you have questions, please talk to either us, the chairs, or Mahesh, the AD, or the other ADs as well. So let me just give that a moment in case you want to read that.
Mind you, it's a new one, so you have to, it's not the usual one, just in case.
Okay, so you had some time to read it. And notes really well. So again, you should all be familiar with this, but effectively we are expected to sort of behave nicely towards each other and try and work in a constructive way. It's a professional organization. You're expected to treat other participants with courtesy and respect, and realize that we're all trying to work for the same common goals of making the internet better. If you have any concerns about or feel like you've been harassed or something similar, then you can either speak to us chairs. There's also the ombudsperson's team, again, you can raise concerns with. So far in this working group, we have no issues. So today we've got two sessions. We've got this one that's quite a short session of 1 hour today, and we may end up finishing early depending on how the discussions go. And then we've got a second session on Friday. The aim is for today's session is to cover the administrative parts of the working group and talk about the base drafts. So this is the drafts that we think are currently ready for adoption. And in some cases, we're doing a call for adoption for two of these. And the framework one, again, I think we believe, the chairs believe that this is something we should hopefully adopt fairly soon. So we'll get updates of those drafts. We've probably got some time for some open discussion, but we may finish a bit early today if necessary. And then on Friday, we're going to talk more about the models and things. And that's some of the work effectively the working group has been spending some more time on. And some new proposals, and we expect to have like an 80-minute session sort of going through some of the modeling issues in more detail. Hopefully Leanne's going to sort of drive some of that. So that's happening on Friday. So we hope that folks can come to that as well. Just to recap, so this is actually the same slide that we presented in the last IETF meeting, IETF 123. So we had some liaison statements coming in before IETF 123. I think we had somebody who'd volunteered to help with those, but we hadn't had much progress on actually either going through those and acting on those. So if anyone else is interested in helping progress those, then please can you let us know. Otherwise, Diego and I need to pick these up and make sure that we should respond to them. I think it is worth knowing that there is some content in some of these that might have a direct impact on some of our work in terms of definitions and things. So I think it would be good if you're willing to help. Just a reminder of how our work is structured. So we're working on, in terms of our charter, we've got some short-term deliverables, which we're not getting through that quickly. So we have some use cases that is our aim to focus for common understanding. And our aim is that we're not expecting that to go to RFC. We do want that to be a working group document, and we want to ensure there's consensus on that, but we don't expect necessarily to take that to RFC, decide that later. And then there's terminology and metrics definitions, 2 more drafts that we also think are foundational in terms of defining this. And I guess the other one that's sort of coming in, it's not on the slide, is this sort of framework document that's sort of showing you the overall architecture of how these different bits will fit together. We've also had modeling proposals in terms of going forward. And in the previous meeting, the agreement was to have some regular not design team meetings, design team light. So meetings that are a bit more informal and ad hoc on a regular basis to try and progress those. I was a bit slow setting those up, but they have started, and we've had sort of 3 of those in October. And again, those will continue after this meeting, and we expect to make sort of more progress, and hopefully more quick progress in terms of getting some common understanding of foundation in terms of what these models look like. It's been proven to be a bit tricky at the moment, I think, in terms of getting that common understanding and agreement and consensus on what these sort of look like, and exactly what issues we're solving. So we want the work to try and progress in parallel as much as possible. And so what we're planning to do is, so we want to try and build consensus on these use cases and terminology in the framework document. So the first 2 of those, we've done a poll for adoption. This is the second one for the use cases documents. It'd be really great if folks can read those documents and comment on the list if they're happy for them to be adopted, or if they've got some comments that they think should be addressed before they're adopted, or alternatively, if they think that for some reason they're not ready to be adopted. But a reminder that we don't need these documents to be perfect for the working group to adopt them. We just need agreement that there's a good common starting point. And I think it's also useful to know that these can evolve quite a lot within the working group, just an agreement that these are good starting points. So please do review these documents and comment on them on the list. The framework documents, so I think that's been progressing quite well. That's been presented again today, and it may be that we then do an adoption poll after that, after this meeting as well, once these first 2 documents are out of the way. I think we'll discuss that later. Then, as I said before, we continue to work towards this common data model, and we'll drive that through these sort of design team light type meetings. We'll have some discussion of that in the second meeting today, and then we'll continue to drive forward. And I can sort of encourage people as much as possible to try and review documents, comment on them list, to try and get more energy and drive these further forward. Both Diego and I are in Madrid this week, actually. I think we've moved to Montreal for this week, and you can email us in to Green Chairs. Any other week, you probably can find Diego in Madrid.
Yeah. Well, no, you cannot find me in Madrid because I don't live in Madrid, but that's another story. No, just let me insist on one thing that Rob mentioned, the adoption calls is something important. When we launched the adoption calls, we allocate 3 weeks instead of the 2 traditional weeks, because we were going to have this week in the middle. So we wanted to allow some more time for further reflection, etc. But take into account that it's 3 weeks and we have consumed already 1 week. So far we have two comments on or 3 or 4 on the list. It would be really appreciated. It's as simply as I support adoption or I don't support adoption for whatever the reason. Please think about it, because otherwise it's difficult. If you, without an active participation from your side, it's difficult to weigh the interest of a particular document and the particular document and particular state for the group. So please take your time, take advantage that you are here and that you should be focused on what we are doing here and express your opinions on the list and even today here, but you'll be more than welcome.
Right. So I think first up we've got terminology. Is it Gentian presenting? Yeah.
Okay, hello. So on behalf of the authors, I'm here to update the progress of terminology for energy efficiency network management. So here's some recap. It has been presented already in IETF 121, 122, and 123, and also some of the interim meetings. And so thanks to Shailesh, Benoit, Emil, Carlos, and many others for valuable review. And the GitHub, here's the address for GitHub. If you would like to contribute, you're welcome to propose open issues or contribute something there. Yeah. So also we thanks to the chairs to send email to kick off the adoption call on this work. And here's the document status. The latest version is version 05. And compared to version 04, there are some differences. And we add Shailesh as a contributor and add some new definitions like service level energy efficiency and energy aware intent. Also, we updated some definition such as device level and component level energy efficiency to clarify their relations with system level and subsystem level energy efficiency. And here are some details on the definition introduced in the latest version. So first one is service level energy efficiency. It denotes the total energy consumption attributed to delivering a specific service or application within a network segment. And it enables operators and carriers to measure and report per service energy footprint, providing valuable insights for operational benchmarking and capacity planning, etc. And we also introduced a new definition. It's energy aware intent definition. So this is a technology agnostic expression, and the main focus is that we focus on energy behavior and what kind of energy behavior is desired. For example, minimize power consumption or optimize energy to throughput ratios, leaving the system to determine the best enforcement method. And for the actual implementable control logic, it could be paring down interfaces or reducing link speeds. So this will enable policy-driven, automated, and potentially closed-loop energy optimization aligned with business goals. And for the next steps, if the WG adoption goes smoothly, then we could set up a WG GitHub for this work to keep track of open issues and make them transparent. And also, we will try to continue to align with other green work, such as use case framework and young data model. Yeah, thank you. That's all.
So do we have any questions in the room? There's nobody in the mic. No? So I was just going to comment on, go back a slide. On this energy aware intent, I think this is good and interesting definition. I do wonder whether this is a bit early to include in this document. So I think some of these definitions we want to check what the framework says and the data models end up saying. So if the data model ends up driving what the behavior is and it needs a definition for that, then I think that's a great time to have the terminology. So I don't mind having part of this document of ideas or terms that we're thinking of, but I think we need to be careful and mindful that we decide which ones are sort of absolutely key for what the work we're doing and which ones are maybe useful, but we want to try and pare them down. So I think it's just a matter in terms of the document of being able to have that split.
Yeah, I totally agree. So finally, it has to be aligned with the other core drafts to be, now it's in progress. Yeah.
Mahesh, so I had a similar comment with respect to actually the previous definition. I think it's on the one slide before this. I think it's okay to think about these terms as we are thinking of how the Green Working Group progresses the work, but maybe as part of the charter, I don't know if we will get to service level energy measurement quite as yet. Maybe the definition is fine to have, but just be aware that we may not get to do that kind of work right away.
And in terms of, I mean, in terms of the work that's been going on in discussions for the data models, they've been looking at service or network wide as well as the down to device and maybe services. I think some of that is still open where it goes, but absolutely agree in terms of making sure these are aligned. And I think in terms of this document, even once we've adopted this document, I don't think we need to be in a rush to get this published. I think we can have this document within the working group and evolving alongside the data model and the framework, because I would like effectively to try and make sure that we don't try and publish something too early before we know what we need. Jefferson?
Oh, so can you put on the next slide? Yeah, so just for clarification, in the RFC 9315, there are, some definitions on intents, but it's not by itself an RFC about the classification. So maybe you could put some reference to the RFC 9316. And I'm not sure what you're considering in this kind of intents, if they are intents about the network as a whole, or if they are for some specific parts. So I believe that even considering this definition, it should be good to have more information on what this kind of intent applies, just to make sure. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Benoit. So I would like to agree with what you said, Rob, and you, Mahesh, that some of those terms there, they might be interesting, but unless they're used in different documents, then maybe they should not be in that draft. What we did in NMOP is that Adrian Farrell looked at the different documents that were quite stable already. Then he took the common terms, and then as a consequence, he validated that they were used the right way. So it's a kind of two-phase approach. We might be using this one, I don't know. So that's also why I agree with you, Rob, that it's one of these RFC that we don't want to standardize first. We do the terms, we check how they're used, if they're used consistently in the different documents, models, framework, you name it. And then we just prune the list if we don't use it, or we just update it. So this is, by the way, I don't want to lose those definitions, so they would be clearly labeled as potential use in the future or something like that.
Yeah, so actually, there's something currently defined in the draft. It could be removed in the future if other drafts will not use it. But here, we add these terms just for reference for other drafts that may be used in the future. Yeah.
And then we need to just think about whether we have like an appendix section at the back that holds these terms of other ones that have been considered but aren't like the normative ones that the working group's got consensus on, or maybe possibly store them. If this document moves on to GitHub, you could store these other terms as GitHub issues or something. I don't know quite what the best place to put them is. I agree with Benoit, we don't want to lose them, but we just need to be very clear as to what the working group consensus is and what the minimum set of terms we need, and make sure that we've got agreement and consistency across all these documents. But I still am happy as a chair to try and get this document adopted now, because we need a terms document and having the place, and it's a working group item, and making sure that we're sort of making progress and getting consensus on these things. Any other questions? No? Thank you.
Okay.
Take the time. I'm going to see if this is the last version. Hopefully, yes.
Is it this one?
You hear me? Yeah. No, it's the last one. Okay, but it doesn't matter. It's the same content.
Okay, fine.
Go to the second slide, and nobody will see the mistakes.
I'll give you the click control.
Okay. So go to the second slide, because the title is wrong. It will be
Don't worry, but they will be updated, because I didn't click in the approval.
Yeah, we are sure about that. So this is about the green use case document, not the framework. It's a mistake in the title. And so you can go to the second slide. I think it's here. Okay, just to recall quickly the status. So we started to working on that in July 2024, actually. And the framework was already drafted there, and we did it very quickly. So, but it's still in use in the framework document. And so the status, the contents of the draft change a bit. We remove the requirement at the beginning, then we use the framework, a template to describe each use cases. And at this step, we have 15 use cases plus one. And it's now a working group candidate. So the new use cases, it's about cross-level energy efficiency. It was added by Xinyu very recently. So it's not in the current version on the IETF site, but it's on the GitHub page. And so we just adjust the overlap with the use case 10. And so the use case 16 is about the coordination between layers to do energy saving. So the layers under the IP layers. And so the relation between the use case draft and the framework. So we recently pushed a table of the use cases usage of the framework interfaces to the framework draft. And it's a very short table that I will show later today. And it's an overview of which interfaces are used by which use case. And so it's a sequence of usage of the interfaces that you can see here. As an example, A to B to C means that the use case is using the discover and the monitoring and the metering in sequence. So here is a table. So we can, I will not go through them actually, but it shows that all the use cases are clearly using interfaces that are in the framework document. There is just the ISAC use case, the 12th use case that is not up to date. So we have to review all of them and to detail this one. And so the to-do list. So it to continue the cross validation on the cross UC check with the other pieces or components at the entrance of the working group. So try to reduce the overlapping between the use cases. And we will try to use the rule that Kin used for the in pair 16 to do that. And we will continue to document the table I showed you previously in the framework document. And then I hope that we will start checking the relation with the data modeling. I mean to know if the data modeling and the terminology, it applies to it too. They are using or solving something that is related directly to the use cases. But this can be discussed. And so the other point that we have to do is to address the direction that MED gave to us recently. So finalize the use case about ISAC, so smart city, and to add the new in the auto list because I forgot it. That is for me. So I will be happy if we can discuss the last point about the checking of the applicability of the work of the working group to the different use cases. I don't know if it's a good idea or not.
Mahesh,
Yeah.
I don't know if I signed up not to necessarily discuss the last point, but I did. Thanks for putting the table up there. If you could go to that, I just wanted to know if there's an effort to identify the use case, which use cases the work group necessarily wants to start working on. I see that there was one indicated that the Green Working Group was interested. Are we trying to do that for every use case? Are we trying to identify which use cases the work group would want to work on?
Sounds like a question coming more towards my way. So I think that my plan is to, or our plan is to adopt the document. I think we should discuss the use cases there and make sure that we understand it. And then I think we will try and do a consensus call on the use cases that are there. Basically within that document to agree, like this is the focus of the working group. And a consensus call probably done as like almost like a work group last call on the documents, but then not take it any further. And then if new use cases come in, we would then effectively see those get pulled in as well. But I think that my hope is, or expectation is, a lot of these use cases will be addressed by the same underlying data models, so that they won't necessarily have that much variation in terms of what's being done.
Okay. I think that plan sounds good. So just confirming. And the idea is that this document, much like the other document, is an open document, that there is no effort to try to say, okay, we are done with all the use cases and we should publish it or anything like that.
That's my proposal, is that this document I propose that we don't necessarily intend it to take to RFC. That might change over time. Maybe we'll find that actually there's more value to publish it. But at the moment, my plan for this particular document was to keep it within the working group and acts as like a point of record, an agreement or consensus that we agree these are the things we're focusing on. And new ones can come in, but only there's consensus in the working group that makes sense to bring those in, and only it doesn't sort of go outside the scope of the charge of the working group. The terminology document, that's not going to be a living document in terms of we do intend to eventually publish that. It's just that I don't think we need to be in a rush to publish it quickly. We want to publish that once we know that it's got to a stable state with the with the framework and with the data models.
In the same way, I think we can do a cross-check with the terminology to see which use cases are using this terminology, just to help to clarify the situation.
Just a question regarding that. You mentioned the ISAC use case, and we have another draft on ISAC. I don't know if it's that they are converging or they are totally independent.
I don't know. I don't edit this use case directly.
No, but
but I can double check.
Since I saw ISAC, I thought because there was this idea of presenting the. I check before coming here. I was checking the documents, and there was a new version of the ISAC document that was presented in Madrid.
Yeah, but
and I wanted to understand.
At this step, it's still open. It's a work that we have to do. So please elaborate.
Yeah, Carlos Bernardo. So if you're referring to the draft that I'm one of the co-authors, the idea is that this is going to be, this document is the one that will include all the content regarding the ISAC, and I need to contribute to that part that on the interfaces that you indicated that is missing, but the idea is to have this document only for the use case. Yeah.
So the ISAC document that we have now in the data tracker is going to converge to this. Okay.
This already, I mean, most of the content is already there, so I need to align this part at this part.
Benoit, thank you, Emil, for doing this exceptional work. To come back to the use cases, I actually don't want to mention which use case this working group is going to focus on, but the main point of this is that whatever the use case is there, they're able to be fulfilled with all the interfaces that you have defined in the framework. And that conclusion already is great. So, thank you. And that come back to your point about most of the use cases might be using the same data model, the same underlying data model in the end, because we prove already that the framework would solve, the building blocks in the framework would solve all of these.
You have to.
Yes, and that sounds good. Mohammed.
Oh, sorry. I was just Diego's said something about the ISAC model, so I was just going to clarify that this is the ISAC use case. The document that you have seen update is the Yang model for ISAC, actually.
So I didn't quite follow your question.
It's not the question. It's the clarification to what Diego said. That on ISAC, the update is for the Yang model, not for this.
Okay.
So Mahesh, just getting up here to clarify the point about why when I asked about use cases, it wasn't to say that the work group would be limited to it. I was just interested for the people who are coming into the working group, trying to figure out what use cases are being worked upon. It would be helpful to indicate that, not to say that that work should be limited to that. Clearly, the framework document or the underlying model will reflect the kind of work that the work group is going to do, but it's helpful to correlate it with the use cases. That's all.
Yes, I think that's correct. But the one thing I want to avoid is like too much of a creeping use cases with new things coming in. I think, again, I suspect a lot of them that they're only worth or interesting to consider if they actually bring different sorts of requirements in terms of what the APIs are. And I think we need to, if they do come in, we need to be very careful as to whether we adopt those early on or we do them over time. So, but that we can manage in the working group.
Okay.
Any other questions? Got time? I think we're done. Thank you.
Framework, right?
Yeah.
All right, so this is the real framework presentation now.
I'm not orange research.
So thank you, Emil, for the introduction and the previous table that we mentioned. So one of the conclusions I'm going to repeat is that most of the use cases could be solved with the building blocks that we've got in the framework. We've been having 3 new revisions of the document, and this is like joint work with all the people over there. So I presented this slide a couple of times in the interim in the physical meeting. I don't want to repeat everything, just a couple of things that are in blue. So first of all, you see the architecture and all interfaces that Emil mentioned. Second of all, what is in blue is things that are specific to green. So we need to have the notion, the concept of energy objects. We need to have the notion of power interface. We need to have the notion of metering relationship. I have a smart PDU that meter for a server which is connected to it. I need to have a PoE interface that monitors the power of an attached camera, for example. So the energy object, the metering relationship, the power interface are things that we need to have in the framework. And this is actually the example with the power over Ethernet. And what we see is the power source relationship there that I mentioned. And there are some other relationships. So I covered that multiple times. I don't want to redo it. Just keep in mind the concept. So the framework is there to define how we consume, produce, and manage energy. All right. And there are actually 3 relationships. I mentioned one of them. The power source relationship. It's a source, it should be power source. The metering and the aggregation. If I'm a PoE port, I'm going to meter something attached to me, but I'm also going to be able to control that thing attached to me, because if I cut the power, there is the wireless, the AP doesn't work any longer. So just having this notion in the framework is important. And make no mistake, there is no way to discover that automatically. Yes, you could have a kind of CDP that tells you what is attached, but there is no way to get the energy topology in an automatic way, in a discoverable way. So this framework allows monitoring and control and energy-aware automation. So what's new? Well, first of all, we are pretty happy to see that we've got nice drawing now. Thanks to Marisol. So we published this the wrong way, so it's going to be in the next version. But okay, makes me happy. So what else? We've got this extra interface, which is the G interface, the API service interface. There is a draft called Petra, which is pass routing ratio, pass trace, something like that, right? Sorry, it escaped me right now. So it's ability to know how much energy you consume per pass. For us, this is just one of the application. Yes, thank you. A great share. Pass energy traffic ratio API. Thank you. And we added this, but to us, this Petra is just one example of the services. However, it means that we need to have this extra interface and arrow over there. Now, in the framework, the first couple of slides were about the blue object need to have power interface, power outlet, power inlet, power state, and a series. What is a sleep? What is a hibernate? Do we need these? Is it only on off? So we need to have those concepts. We must have the metering, power source, and aggregation relationship. So now, trying to help with the data modeling, I would say power states would be Yang identities. The relationship would be the same thing. And we need to have, somehow, it's a green working group, we need to have like power information. And then this is my little rant, and not on behalf of the author, which is like, you know what? The charter is there for a year now, and there are not 10,000 ways to define power. So we spent some time like in the EMAN working group. This is a MIP. We don't care about the MIP, but what is behind it? the power, the nameplate, the unit multiplier, the accuracy, the caliber, the current type, all these. So I'm thinking, we know that we need this, right? It's a framework for control and monitoring, but let's face it, monitoring is first. If you could monitor what we have in network to be good already. Second is control. And what is first is that we need to get it from devices, from router. So I'm thinking, why don't we just have this mapping of a MIP to a YANG module and telling this is what we believe is right. Okay, what's wrong with this? And then we debate. So this is my little rant. Thank you for allowing me to say that.
So effectively what you're proposing here is, in terms of doing the data models and things, is maybe this would be a good starting point to start with this, and then rather than starting from scratch and trying to redefine them, it's like, let's start with the EMAN MIP work, obviously translate it into YANG, and then from there have a discussion and see, is there some of these things that we don't need? Is there some things we do need? That's like the starting point to try and move us forward.
With the very basic, right? So, because right now, you will see in my last slide that you are kind of stuck, because you put like the process that we go with the data model. Great. Then you said we go first with the kind of top level, right? We want to meter, we want to control, and then going down. But I'm thinking, it's my view, but practically I need to get power from router, right? So there is like the top down, bottom up, and there is monitoring first before config. So, and this is what I've not seen so far as a discussion in this 1 year of the charter. So, all right. And now where we're stuck as well is that we could define those concepts in the framework, right? One of them is important. This is what was discussed in the data modeling. One of the, it's not really an interim, it's like calls, right? And one of the key thing is, okay, what is the source ID? Because I mentioned I'm an interface, POE interface, and I'm managing and I'm reporting on behalf of someone else. So I need to have those unique ID. So we could start defining what we believe is right in the framework, but we're waiting for the model. And the source ID, you know, we kind of solved that in EMAN in the past. This RFC, which is the entity MIP version 4, was made exactly to create a UUID, because this UUID must be unique across the network. If you speak about a smart PDU, an attached server, so yes, we could debate whether this should be a string or it could be whatever, but we're kind of stuck, right? And we saw it that way. So again, we could be reusing that, but we don't want to introduce things in the framework right now while we're waiting for the modeling. And yes, we discussed that into the bi-weekly calls, and that's why all of my questions to the data model people, so basically Jan, is what are the design choices that are influencing the framework and vice versa? Now, the YANG provenance, right? So I discussed during the hackathon with Diego, who's leading this draft, about draft IETF's OpsWG YANG provenance. What is specific to green is that, yes, we could be polling, retrieving, YANG pushing, you name it, energy object from a router. But sometimes you don't have this information. Sometime on the interface C over there, you have data sheets because you don't have the information from the router. So you cannot say, actually, there is nothing reported. So my total power energy consumption, I'm going to just leave those routers out or leave those boxes out. No, no, no. You're going to say what you have, and maybe it's a data sheet, right? Now, from all of these sources of information, we want to make sure it comes from the right source, right? And this is exactly the draft from Diego. And we could add this one in there, but at the bottom right, there are in your draft, Diego, about 4 different ways to get the information. And actually, an ordering of what you prefer for green or what we prefer for green would be good, because you say, I could attach it to YANG push, I could have an attribute, I could have an extra YANG object, I could sign it, I could have an annotation. So I don't know if it's something specific to green, and maybe a different use case will have a different provenance order, or something you want to solve in the Observer G draft. But this is like some of the open issues we have.
Yeah, just for the illusion, the good swing. No, simply when we started to build the provenance draft, the idea was that these could be of interest in different use cases and in different modules. And what we thought it was the best thing to do is that, well, what is strictly defined is how the signatures are created, which is the process for creating a signature. And it's clear that you take this, you take the YANG content, how you process it, how you sign it, and how you can verify them later on. The point is, these four options are how you add the signatures to whatever that you are promoting. So if we are defining a new module, probably the first option is the simplest, because simply you add an element, a leaf element, wherever you feel like, and say, well, the signature is going to be here. It's going to be called energy signature or whatever we call it, and it's optional, so it can be signed or not, and that's all.
Okay,
that probably would be the simplest when you have an existing, you are defining a new module.
Yes. What about a data sheet?
Data sheets, I mean, we can, and this is something that we had to study, but data sheets, if we can formalize data sheets in terms of JSON or XML and soon CBOR, we could sign it as well, using the same process. I mean, in the draft, this is not discussed, but probably we could create another draft about using causes, signatures, blah, 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 but for it will be formally formatted information. That's something that is, I can take note of this, go back to Madrid, talk to Anna, that is the one who is doing the implementation, and see how we can address that.
I was just going to comment on that. In terms of the data sheets, though, presumably we are going to translate the technical contents of that data sheet somehow into the YANG model, because to be able to consume that data, it's going to be, we're going to extract the key information, are we not?
Maybe. Maybe it's an internal thing. I don't know.
Okay. Because I was going to say, if you then translate it into YANG, then you apply the
Yes,
provenance to that. So it's just the signing of where it's coming from.
Now, maybe we'll be discussing this, and we want to understand if it's a real issue, right? Because maybe people will be telling, I don't care about verifying the origin integrity of data sheet because I put it myself. So maybe we're trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist in practice. And also the same thing with the routers, because if I'm managing my routers, I know I receive a telemetry already. So feel free to provide feedback there. We're not there to invent problems for the sake of inventing problems. So there are some more issues, but some of them are in pause, right? So discovering capabilities, this should be done by the model. Understanding the device capabilities. So if I'm a controller and you tell me you could go to sleep or hibernate, what does it mean? What does it mean for interface? What does it mean for a line card? What does it mean for something? So it's always different context. The mapping the intent to this, you want to reply to this?
I was just going to say, and I think this, for me, this is one of the things where when you start writing the model and actually get to some concrete examples, it'll be much easier to understand rather than talking the abstract.
Exactly. That's why I'm going very fast here, because it's like the example with the power coming from the MIP. If people see something and say, oh, that's wrong, doesn't work, whatever. That's why they've been there for 3 revisions, right? Mapping the intent to settings. We'll see if it goes in the framework. That's something difficult. The transition, handling the transition and ensuring safety and east-west energy metrics. So maybe I don't want to discuss this into much detail here. I want to leave you with one slide, which is my own view, maybe not representing the authors, even if I could agree that, even if they could agree, we're doing, and by the way, this is the green framework, maybe not NMOP, right? Yeah, sorry about that. There was a bug somewhere. So we're working on the framework, but we're waiting for the modeling effort, and maybe the modeling efforts is waiting for us. So we are losing somehow time and energy without trying to be that funny. But we've been there for a year now, and but we're following the process that you guys set up. So trying to help the modeling, and maybe it's going to be your answer, help the modeling, and you'll get the answer for framework. But we're kind of in a waiting mode. And somehow my point is that both are required anyway, we know it. So how do we make it happen? And by the way, we're requesting adoption, if you don't mind.
Yes. Okay. So I think that the adoption call, I'll do a poll of hands in a moment to see how many people have read any version of the framework document to understand. But I think we actually maybe polled that before, and there's quite strong support in terms of doing this. So I completely agree within the working group. I think there was reasonable consensus that having a framework document is necessary. I think that there was like a reasonable view that this was a good starting point. So from that perspective, I think that it would be good to do an adoption poll. So we'll ask for that. We'll do a policy and indication now, but actually, obviously, that'll happen on a list in terms of doing that. But I think that would be good. I do completely understand the concern in terms of trying to progress. The framework requires the models to progress as well. And actually, some of the blame for that going a bit slowly might fall on me in terms of trying to organize the meetings and things that we could have done a bit better there. But we actually need participants to help drive that forward. Because in terms of one of those meetings, somebody said it like, is this been driven by the chairs? It's like, no, we're only there to facilitate this. We need the participants to help actually have the discussions within that work and just drive it forward. Because in those meetings, it felt like a lot of the time there's only a few of us actually talking, and I wanted to get a wider spread.
Right. As a well-behaved IETF person, or I try to, I've been following the guidelines that was we focus first on the top-down, right? Because to me, I could have come with a Yang model, which was to be a mapping of what we had in the past, and say, what's wrong? This is like the whiteboard, what's wrong? Let's change and all this. But I don't want to disrupt the process. So.
And in terms of that, we were leaving that somewhat to what Jan had suggested, because he was driving the effort and he'd sent that to the list and had very little sort of feedback in terms of what approach to take. And there was some discussion, but it didn't feel like there was a strong consensus to do it a different way. So with him holding the pen, we've left Jan a bit to sort of drive that forward. And I do think that Jan's also mentioned to me that like maybe we're putting too much onto Jan to do. So might need to try and split that out. What I envisage here, though, ideally, is a document that's on GitHub that people can put things into, like ideas and things, and have one editor that's sort of merging those in to make it consistent and get some of this stuff just written down and just a starting point, even at the different layers. Like this is a structure of what we're trying to achieve, because I think then the conversation will follow. At the moment, I think that where it's suffering is this stuff is all too abstract that nobody can comment on it because they can't actually read on what they're doing. So that's on us to try and help that progress forward as well. So we do take that on board. I don't know if you got any comments, Diego, as well.
I think that's something that we need the feedback on the community precisely on how the exact delimitation of what we're doing. I don't see so far. I know that I agree that we are somehow losing energy because it's at the end is about you come with a proposal, the proposal is reflected in the other side but not clearly, and then we start into this kind of not very productive discussions, but that's what we need from you, is that we will get a somehow gauging, which is the how we can delimitate what is framework, what is core model, whether the model, I mean, when talking about the core model, I have seen in the slides that Jan will be presenting on Friday. We see that he has a model as well for a framework, and this is something that we have to clarify. And well, I think that the adoption call is the ideal moment for doing so. So please comment, have your say, whatever you have in mind, and what matches better your plans, your use cases, your ideas that you have for extending the core model in the future or for applying the framework in the future. Please go for it. Don't be shy. Come on.
And so I'm just going to start a poll about adoption for this draft. Stay for the moment, some things, in case there's any questions. So before I do that, I'm not going to ask how many people have read this document. We did that last time around. There seemed to be good support. So I'm simply going to ask in terms of interest, in terms of adoption. If anyone's got any comments or things before I do that, then please come to the mic line. And again, if you're going to, you're opposed to adopting this document, then I'll then ask you to come up to the mic line to indicate why. But that's the adoption poll. So this is the draft there. So the show of hands is there. Please, can you vote? Not vote, poll. Not vote. I was in the same session with you. You can't vote, Benoit, but I assume you're voting for it. Okay, so that's probably good enough. So it seems to be good support that they support adoption of this framework, so that's good. There's nobody polling against it. There's no opinions which may well indicate people haven't read the documents within this working group, or maybe they think it's not ready, I don't know. But I think from that perspective, I think there's good support for doing an adoption poll on list. Yeah.
But let me insist, we need your comments as well. So not only the...
So we've actually seemed to time that session reasonably well. So there's only 4 minutes left. We had a 10-minute open mic session at the end of this initial session for today. Now it's a 4-minute open mic session. If anyone's got any comments on the work that we're doing here or ways we're progressing, so any suggestions, now's a good time to sort of speak up. Otherwise, I don't see any comments either in room or remote, so we'll finish the session a few minutes early. Thank you, and a reminder that we've got a second session on Friday. We've got 2 hours on Friday, and that's one of the places where we'll be sort of discussing the modelling work, hopefully in a bit more detail and things. But again, a lot of that will then continue in these sort of online meetings, not formal interims, not design teams, but like a lightweight interim meetings, progressing this to try and get a concrete working document on the modeling work. Thank you.
3 minutes.